Welcome back to our third podcast with JJM ECE. I guess we should begin talking about the Silent Child film. What did you guys think about that?
I thought it was a very powerful video. I actually felt many emotions. I have to say that I did cry for sure. It was just like an emotional roller coaster, I feel, because I felt so bad for the child since it showed that the parents really didn't care enough to help the child out when the child is having an issue. I know the brother at one point actually ended up doing something, but still it even took him a long time. And then when you saw the educator finally step in, the mom said that, I can't remember exactly word for word anymore, but the mom just said that basically she doesn't have high expectations for her child to succeed, basically. And that hit me really hard. I actually kind of got mad at that. It was just very frustrating, and for a parent to just not believe in their child and not help the child at all, it frustrated me for sure. But then to see the educator actually help her finally and actually see her succeed just brought joy. So that's what I mean by kind of like an emotional roller coaster, because you're sad, then you're mad, and then all of a sudden you're happy because she finally got some help from someone who believed in her and everything. Then you're kind of mad again. But yeah, what did you think, Jess?
That's totally understandable. I get it. I felt the same way. I found personally when I was watching this video, I was relating it back to the children's environment class we had with Tanya, and when we spent one of our classes talking with the Children's Aid Society, a member, and I just felt like I was able to relate it back as we talked about child neglect. And it was clear to see that between the relationship of the child and her parents, there was so much neglect there because they didn't really bother to try and understand her, try and learn how to communicate with her. Instead, they just assumed what she wanted and the reason why she was acting out and the behaviors that she was, they just assumed it rather than trying to actually understand her. And then when they got rid of the educator at the end of it, it was just another form of neglect. Maybe because of the parents' own self-esteem or ego, I'm not sure, but it was really hard to watch because it makes you think this happens in real life too. It's not just a movie, right? So it felt so wrong just watching it because I kind of just wanted to jump into that film and be like, let me help you.
Yeah, and neglecting her really will change her whole entire development, because the educator has helped her, but there are so many things that as she continues to grow that she really needs that foundational development and support from her family and other people to help her grow and everything, and that's not there at all. How is she supposed to grow and everything and learn and understand her environments if the parents aren't helping her and she's not having any support from anyone really? So yeah, I just kind of thought about that and I was like, I guess this is in a way kind of a form of abuse.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. And then in the end, it's creating an unsafe environment for her, which, like you said, will have a negative effect on her development later on and right now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. That's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up because really that is a huge hazard for sure. Yeah, so reading through this module and everything, I was like, wow, a lot of this actually hits home because of this stuff, right? So like the relationships and everything, I was like, oh my gosh, I can really connect with a lot of these. And then looking at different resources as well, building relationships with children who have challenging behaviors, that one was amazing. So I do work with some children that have some challenges. So I really liked that article because it actually gives you tips on how to deal and help the child and guide them when you're dealing with a highly sensitive child, a self absorbed child, a defiant child, initiative child, and an active aggressive child. It really does give you all these in-depth examples of what you could do and how to help them best in order for them to have the optimal experience in learning and growth without them like backtracking. I think some of these are great ideas when dealing with children that may have some challenges, because then we can really help them progress and everything. And actually, by reading that, going back to the Wegger, a lot of these things can actually help you and benefit you. Doing these tips, actually putting them into your own practice, would be amazing for not only, I think, every child to progress, but especially those who have some challenges.
I think it goes back into trying to build those positive relationships with young children. This was pointed out in the module, but having the ability to understand children's emotions and being able to respond appropriately to others' emotions is a very important part to having a positive relationship with them. Also, just making sure that the quality and responsive nurturing relationship means a child will feel a sense of security and trust. And I think that goes back to what Jessica Jenkins was talking about earlier. Having that sense of security and trust will allow children to open up to these relationships and at the end of the day have a better chance of being able to learn and have better opportunities to develop.
Yes, going through this module, I was reminded a lot of some of the children I've worked with in the past, some of whom absolutely had challenging behaviors of different sorts. What it really comes down to in the end for me is getting them to gain that sense of trust, that sense of safety, that sense of this person isn't just here to tell me, no, stop, bad kid, like all the time. It's about getting them to understand that you want to get to know them, that you care about them as a person, that you can help them when needed.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure because we, as like educators, they really do need that support. Like children need that. And I like how you said, like, they don't need somebody there that's going to just say, like, no, bad kind of thing. I like how you said that because really, I like that idea of educators, being the child's friend because then you're more able to be at their level and it's not as intimidating and you're actually able to help them progress better in every area if you look at yourself as their friend, not just their teacher, their educator. So I need to tell them what to do. Like, it's better when you're actually looking at yourself more as a friend, which I kind of like that analogy thing. But I really liked how I heard that the one time about just being like friendly, like developing a friendship and a connection with the child.
Yeah, and it's important, absolutely, to have that connection. I think it's mostly important to make sure that it goes not too far to one extreme and not too far to the other. Because if they think of you too much as their friend, they might not respect what you have to say or listen to you. But if you're too much the teacher, they're not going to trust you. They're not going to be able to open up to you. They're just going to see you as the authoritarian. So it's really about finding a balance that's somewhere in the middle. When I was working at a camp, my campers used to refer to it as a mom or big sister personality.
That is a perfect analogy right there, like being the mother or sister. Actually, I like that better. Because then you do have some sort of authority, like you're saying.
Thank you. The other thing that maybe I didn't necessarily add on to what I'd said earlier is that sometimes it can be really hard to build up that relationship with a child, especially when the environment that they've been in previously has been a challenging one for them.
I just wanted to jump in, Jessica, and talk about that before we talk about something else, because I think that's very important. An educator being able to accurately read cues and respond to those underlying needs for children is one of the most important things ever, because I was looking at the Mike Sherman interactions and relationships for social emotional development. It talked about how a lot of children sometimes have those trauma-based needs, psychological needs, emotional needs, regulatory needs, developmental needs, and relational needs that they're not receiving at home sometimes, and it can weigh them down when they're in their learning environment and affect their ability to learn. So I think it's very important that we as educators build those positive relationships by being able to read their cues and be able to respond to them in a way that they feel comfortable and is able to help them in the way of how they project their behavior and that.
Yeah, actually, that kind of goes with what you're saying. So I know that there's obviously the biological, emotional, cognitive, social, and pro-social. Those are the 5 domains. But actually, in that article, before you get to the domain part, it does have a 5-step method. I actually remember seeing this in class. I think it was maybe grade 6. They were doing a stress thing. For the whole month, they were just talking about stress and anxiety and how to recover from it. Basically, self-regulation, how to make it easier to do that. So I really liked how they put a 5-step method in there, and it's basically number 1 is reading the signs of stress and reframing the behavior. Number 2 is recognizing the stressor. Number 3 is reducing the stressor. Number 4 is reflecting to enhance the stress awareness. And number 5 is just responding. So developing strategies for the stressor and returning back to a calm state. And I think that would be actually a good way to put into the younger grades as well, because they can start to understand the basics of how to deal with their own stress.
I just wanted to touch on encouraging parent involvement. I think that's going to be also another big thing in building relationships in this module. Again, I think it's very important that relationships are made throughout between the educator, the parents, co-workers, children, just because it builds a better environment for everyone. So being able to encourage parent involvement would benefit children at most, because they're being able to make that connection with the children and their parents. And I think it goes back to the beginning of our podcast when we were talking about the silent child. If the parents were more involved and the educator got the parents to involve themselves in trying to learn sign language like the brother learned some, I think the relationship would have just been so much better for not only the child but the parents, because they would be able to communicate in a better way and understand each other and promote more of a positive relationship than they had before.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you imagine how much they're missing out on by not communicating with their child?
For sure, 100%. And even the child, look at everything that she was missing out on. The development, the first 3 to 5 years are the most important part of a child's life, because that's when they do their most development. she's just missed 3 years of that.
So I have something that could probably build on the support from family and the school system, like the classroom. One of the resources, it's titled Building a Supportive Classroom Community in Early Childhood. The 3 tips are, it's okay that children notice differences, and we should embrace it as a part of the community. And then the second one is children may need time and support in resolving these conflicts. And then the last tip that they have, so the third one, is community check-ins can be integrated throughout the school year. So really this kind of applies, I know it says for the classroom, but I feel like this could really apply for parents as well, giving that support in resolving conflicts and doing like check-ins with your child to see how they are. But
Alright. So is that everything for this module, guys?
I believe so. If no one
Yep,
has anything
that's
else to
it.
say,
Okay, perfect. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to our podcast. We hope to see you, well, I guess, have you listening to the next one.
Have a great night.
bye.
Bye.